Point at AFR.net.
Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk, the first of what we expect to be many commentaries from Dr. Richard Land at the bottom of this first hour. We welcome him to the rotation here at Focal Point on AFR Talk. Now, let me finish off rehearsing for you the interview between Candy Crowley and Susan Rice. Candy Crowley says, look, you were supposed to notify Congress. The law requires you to give 30 days notification to Congress. You didn't do that. And she says, well, we did consult with Congress when we had past potential to have this kind of arrangement. Well, I don't know what she's talking about. I'm not aware of any conversations that the Obama administration had with Congress in which they told Congress, look, we are going to break the law if we get the chance. This 30-day notification thing, we're going to dump that if we, in our judgment, think we need to simply ignore it. I don't remember any kind of consultation with Congress of that nature. But she says what we did is the Department of Defense consulted with the Department of Justice. That means we talked to ourselves and we gave ourselves permission to break the law, so that makes it okay. We talked to Eric Holder over at the Department of Justice, and of course he would never countenance or contemplate ignoring or violating or disregarding the law. We know that his word is golden on these things, and so the Attorney General said, hey, it's fine for you to go ahead and break the law, so we did. So we did consult. We consulted with ourselves. And because of the acute urgency of the health condition of Sergeant Bergdahl, we had to go ahead and act. Now, Candy Crowley says, look, that's not enough for me. This is interesting to me because Candy Crowley doing some actual journalism here. She says, well, why didn't you notify Congress? Is there no one in Congress that you can trust with the information? Could you not call up the chairman of the intelligence committees or the chairwoman on the Senate side and say, look, I want you to know this is happening. We have to act now. So in other words, Candy Crowley says, look, you didn't talk to anybody. You didn't even notify the chairman of the Armed Services Committee on the Senate side, who is a Democrat and is a woman. That's a safe place to go. You could have said, look, we're in the middle of this emergency. Just want to let you know that we're working on this prisoner swap, just some kind of notification. And Susan Rice admits they did not even do that. So Rice says when the deal was done and Sergeant Bergdahl was in U.S. custody, that's when we began making notifications to Congress. So she admits they didn't talk to anybody until the deal had already been made and Sergeant Bergdahl had already been transferred to American custody. And Candy Crowley says, hey, wait a minute, the deal had already been made. The prisoners in Guantanamo Bay were actually en route to get to a plane to go to Qatar, and you didn't notify Congress until then. And then Rice says this, Congress began to be notified when Sergeant Bergdahl was in American hands, which was actually before the prisoners had left Guantanamo. So the prisoners, the plane was being fueled, they were being loaded up, their bags were being packed, but they hadn't actually left Guantanamo when we let Congress know what was going on. But and so Candy Crowley says, not telling a couple of folks up on Capitol Hill, might that in hindsight not have been a good idea? And so Susan Rice responds by saying, we were putting the highest premium on the safety of Sergeant Bergdahl that was held very closely within the administration. We could not take any risk with this, losing the opportunity to bring him back safely. So Candy Crowley pins her down. So there was a conscious decision to break the law. So Candy Crowley's pinning her down on this. You made a deliberate, conscious decision. This is Candy Crowley, CNN. You made a conscious, deliberate decision to break the law. And she says, no, we consulted with the Department of Justice. So once again, Candy Crowley's defense, oh, no, we consulted. We talked with ourselves, and we gave ourselves permission to completely violate and break the law. Now, I want to get back to The number to call, by the way, if you want to join the conversation about what's going on with this Bo Bergdahl situation, 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. And the left, by the way, has already spooked that this is going to turn into a Willie Horton thing for the Democrats. I mean, they realized this guy was a deserter. He went AWOL. He's not a war hero. 5 of the worst have been released that have American blood on their hands. They have been released, are going to be back on the battlefield. They realize from a political standpoint, this is actually very, very likely to backfire on President Obama and the Democrats, so they're already pretty nervous about all that. Now, we had the story came out in New York Times 3 times over the weekend that you could sum up the Obama foreign policy in one phrase: don't do stupid beep stuff. And you know the word that they were using instead. They used a very explicit word instead of the word stuff. That's their foreign policy. Don't do stupid stuff. Well, if that's their foreign policy, they sure blew it when it came to this Bo Bergdahl situation. Susan Rice out there saying that Bo Bergdahl served the United States with honor and distinction. This is amazing that she is now treating this guy as if he showed bravery and courage on the battlefield instead of deserting his unit. Sergeant Bergdahl wasn't simply a hostage. He was an American prisoner of war captured on the battlefield. He wasn't. They found him drunk as a skunk and rescued him. That's what the Taliban did. There was no capture. There was no battlefield scenario whatsoever. So once again, now realize the danger that this has caused for all American soldiers all around the world. In fact, the danger this has caused for every American civilian around the world, because the signal that President Obama has sent is if you kidnap one of ours, we will release one or more of your bad guys. We'll do a 5-to-1 swap. You kidnap one of our Americans, and we'll release 5 bad guys in return. It's a horrible, horrible decision just from a pragmatic standpoint, endangering the lives of every American on the face of the planet. Now, the problem with turning these guys over to Qatar is Qatar has proven to be somebody we cannot trust. Here's a story from the Weekly Standard. The Obama administration itself has documented repeatedly the permissive environment the Taliban and like-minded extremists enjoy in Qatar when fundraising for their jihad. So you go to Qatar, you want to raise funds for the Taliban, Qatar's the place to do it. They got the run of the place. They can go there freely and raise funds for their jihad in Qatar, a very permissive environment for that sort of thing. In 2012, Secretary of Defense Leon Panetta was so concerned with Qatar's lax attitude towards the jihadists that he fought against the transfer of the Taliban 5. Now, Leon Panetta, he's a liberal. He's a Democrat. He says Qatar is not the place for these guys to go. He did not want the Taliban 5, the Taliban Dream Team, released to Qatar because you cannot trust him. Panetta said they were concerned because Qatar had, quote, balked at U.S. demands that it take steps to ensure the detainees can't leave the country after they're handed over. He said, you cannot trust these guys. We turn them over to Qatar, they're going to be back on the battlefield so quick, it'll give you a headache, make your eyes roll back in your head. So anyway, that is why it's ridiculous to accept any kind of assurances that Qatar is going to be a safe place for these guys to go. Now, here's the point I want to get to. We have to finish this on the other side of the break. I'm looking at a piece here on the Daily Beast written by a soldier, Nathan Bradley Bethea, who served in Afghanistan at the same time in the same vicinity where Bo Bergdahl was when he went off the reservation in 2009. And he says this: for 5 years, soldiers have been forced to stay silent about the disappearance and search for Bo Bergdahl. Now we can talk about what really happened. Here's a confirmation piece from Breitbart. Not only has this nebulous non-story been put out for years, but those soldiers of 4th Brigade, 25th Infantry Division were threatened with legal repercussions if they spoke about Bergdahl. Everybody officially mandated silencing of what we saw. So they were under severe threat of penalty if they spoke a word about Bergdahl. What does that mean? That means that our military knew that this guy was hinky. They knew this guy had not been captured on the battlefield. They knew this guy was a deserter. They knew this guy had gone AWOL. They just didn't want anybody talking about it. CNN's Jake Tapper reported that many of Bergdahl's fellow troops signed non-disclosure agreements agreeing to never share any information about Bergdahl's disappearance and the efforts to recapture him. But the truth is that he was a deserter, and here is what's worse. 6 guys died trying to save him. Back to Nathan Bradley Bethea's piece. It was June 30th, 2009. I was in the city of Sharana, the capital of Paktika province in Afghanistan. As I stepped out of a decrepit office building into a perfect sunny day, a member of my team started talking into his radio. "Say that again," he said. "There's an American soldier missing," and he was. Name was Private First Class Bo Bergdahl. "I served in the same battalion," writes Bethea, "in Afghanistan, participated in the attempts to retrieve him through the summer of 2009. So this guy's an eyewitness to what happened. "After we redeployed, every member of my brigade combat team received an order that we were not allowed to discuss what happened to Bergdahl. He is safe," he says, "and now it is time to speak the truth. The truth is Bergdahl was a deserter, and soldiers from his own unit died trying to track him down." Now, he's from Idaho, my home state. Haley, which is right outside of Sun Valley, it's basically a suburb of Sun Valley or vice versa, going to have a big, giant homecoming thing, treating him as if he was a military hero. President Obama has a thing in the Rose Garden with Bergdahl's parents. I think the dad is now a Muslim convert. He's speaking in Arabic. He's thanking Allah for releasing his son. President Obama, after he praises Allah for releasing his son, President Obama gives him a big hug. So President Obama perfectly willing to be part of a ceremony where Allah is praised for what has happened here. The father says, "Look, my mission is to get everybody out of Guantanamo. I want all those prisoners released." He also sent out a tweet saying God is going to punish us, is going to punish America. He didn't say us, going to punish America because of what was done to the Afghani population. So that is Bo Bergdahl's father. I think he's a Muslim. Bo Bergdahl, I believe, became a Muslim before or after he was in the custody of the Taliban. Focal Point, AFR Talk.